What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
How's everyone today? I hope everyone is doing fine. I'm your host, BKP. First, let me apologize. Our audio got corrupted yesterday. I've been working on it all morning long, trying to make sure everything is correct. I did several tests, so we hope our audio comes through. We apologize for that. But we did publish an article over on our Substack. I'm your host, BKP. You're watching BKP Politics. It's time for a little nugget of truth. A little nugget of truth here. voiceofruralamerica.com. Don't forget, you can subscribe, and you can also, pay for a subscription to help us out. But that's over at our Substack, Vora, V-O-R-A, at BKP Politics. And then we're on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and X. And those are all at Voice of Rural America, Facebook also. So I'm your host, BKP. Now, we had a lot going on. I've got to double back from yesterday. There's a lot happening. And I want to show you a couple things. We are right in the heat of the 2026 Georgia legislative session. And I told you this before it ever started. And some of you out there are getting pretty stressed out. You are. And I understand that because there's some people that are really trying to pull some political stunts. And they're trying to pull political stunts. We knew that all along. We have several under the Gold Dome, whether they are have constitutional offices like Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger or Chris Carr, or they're in the House of Representatives, Georgia House of Representatives, Georgia State Senate, Lieutenant Governor's Office, whatever it may be. We have a lot of people jockeying for their next position in their political career. We know I can't stand that, right? A lot of political stunts, all right? Personal enhancement for their career. It's all going on. Some people are stressed out. Now, there's the look over here, like Sharia law, and I get it. I, for one, do not agree that at any time whatsoever our courts or laws should be anything around Sharia law. I do not. So, but it's the look over here. Then there's the election integrity, Fulton County, which do we have to spend 2 hours explaining or telling you how I feel about that election, right? 2020. But there's all of this going on and promises being made. We have a lot to look at today. But before we start, I want to ask you this question. Now, I brought these out yesterday, and obviously I didn't have any volume. So I want to ask this question before we start. This hat says MAGA, M-A-G-A. This is MAGA. This hat says Make America Great Again. Now, are they the same? Are they the same? Is there a difference in Make America Great Again and this hat that just says MAGA? If not, tell me. If so, tell me what the difference is. I want to talk about that. So, yesterday, because there was no volume, I did not get to bring up the U.S. hockey team. First and foremost, congratulations to the U.S. women's Olympic hockey team. All right. They won the gold 2-1 over Canada. This happens to be the picture that most are looking at today. Right? This is Jack Hughes, front teeth knocked out, blood, American flag around his neck. He scored the winning goal. And then we have right here the team picture right there. And this is the guy right here. His name is Hellebuck, right? Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck, the goalie. That's who that 2-1 Canada win in overtime. Here is the save. I don't know if you can see it quite that well on the screen in the third period. Wow. And we found out, we're not getting all worked up over it, but we know our FBI director, Kash Patel, he can party. He can party. All right. Now, this is the first time since 1980 the men's team has won the gold. A couple things to keep in mind there, that this Olympics 2026, the Russians are not there. They can play some hockey now. They're not at the games in Milan. The games are over. Closing ceremonies Sunday. And not to diminish the value of this win in any way whatsoever, keep in mind in 1980, the United States Olympic hockey team, Miracle on Ice, was entirely made up of amateurs and collegiate players with the average age 21 years old. Just keep that in mind. So, just something. Folks, I think today marks 4 years that Russia rolled in, that Joe Biden invited Russia right into Ukraine. And we know the buildup on the border of the tanks and so forth, ready to go in Ukraine, were set and ready before the Olympics in, is it Beijing? Is that where they were? Wherever they were in China. But basically NBC and China and Putin, hey, we don't want to preempt the Olympics for a war, so please wait. Right now, the amount of firepower we have in the region for Iran, the Olympic Games ended Sunday. I do have a concern. I'm just saying, I have a concern. The Olympic Games ended Sunday. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to go to war with Iran. So let's get into everything surrounding the 2026 legislative session as far as some of the biggest campaign promises. Now, you're being promised to cut. And here's what we're getting ready to talk about, because it's just not possible. It's what they don't tell you, what they're hiding, okay? And if and when they do it, how they plan to pay for it. Now, when they tell you they're going to cut state income tax, right? And they're going to cut homestead property tax, these things are going to be cut, eliminated. It's over a period of time. So as they cut, what revenue comes in to replace? They want you to believe, and this is Blake Tillery and several others, but he is on the appropriations, and he's telling you he's going to cut that state income tax. We've got the boy wonder, yes, Greg the Weasel Dolezal out there. They're going to cut property tax, and he's amazed right now that he found out corporations own large blocks of housing in the Atlanta area. But that being said, how do they replace it? Where does the money come from? And what are they not telling you? I'm going to show you. Why do they never talk about, remember that amazing, right, film industry that we brought in here, right? And recent reports indicate a significant downturn in Georgia's film industry. Why is nobody talk about this? With thousands of jobs impacted and several high-profile productions relocating. The decline in primarily attributes to the massive shift by Marvel Studios, which has moved the main operations in Fayette County to the United Kingdom. Now, down in Fayette County, that's the 3rd Congressional District, they built all these studios. And I have to tell you, no one is talking about what's happening to that area. Key statistics on job and production loss. Jobs at risk. Estimates suggest that 20,000 jobs are being taken out of Georgia as a direct result of Marvel Studios' exit. Now, this is all AI generated. This is what AI is telling me is taking place in the film industry right now in Georgia. Production drops. The state hosted 245 productions in the fiscal year ending June 2025, a nearly 50% decrease from 412 productions filmed in 2022. Spending decline. Film and TV spending in Georgia plummeted from over $4 billion in 2022 to $2.3 billion in fiscal year 2025. Film permits, the number of permits issued in Atlanta dropped roughly by 50% between June 2023 and July 2024. So, according to this, there is a major crash happening in the film industry, right? We became the Hollywood. We brought all the people here. We became the Hollywood of the East. Gavin Newsom, California, Georgia, Hollywood of the East. Film credits, tax credits. They don't talk about it. And now, I want to show you something else. Recently, are you starting to get these ads? Because you got to pay attention to what they're really doing down in Atlanta. Property tax, state income tax. This is being, I'm getting this over and over. Right now, they're really putting these ads out. Georgia's chance to legalize sports betting is coming. Speak up and tell your legislators to pass sports betting. Tell your representative, pass sports betting in Georgia. They won't act unless you speak up. All right, these ads are really starting to come out. Now, remember when, and I have this on tape, we'll not play it today, but remember when Blake Tillery, he's gone around, he said, hey, do you realize there's absolutely no tax on lottery? Right? Have you heard them talk about there's no tax on lottery? And I don't like to get into the economic runs of the ladder. I really don't. But you do know the majority of lottery, that the money that it's taken in is from the lowest runs of the economic ladder in Georgia. Yes, it is. The scratch-offs, the numbers. And I can't sit here and tell you I've never played a lottery ticket in my life. So I'm not going to act like, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've never played blackjack at a casino or hit the video poker. I don't know. I have been to Vegas. I've been to Atlantic City. Want to be clear on that. All right? So, but sports betting. Now, the thing is, taxes on lottery. 2, they want to run gaming through the lottery commission. It's all set up. Everything is set up. If this is not sports betting, all right, they want everything. They want horse tracks. They want OTBs, off-track betting. They want casinos. They want it all. Do not think that they don't want it all. Now, I'm totally opposed to it. Why? Why would you pass anything? And I know you're going to say, well, wait a minute, alcohol is legal, beer is legal. All right, I get it. But if you're going into something knowing, I think, like 10%, you can check me on the numbers later, but like 10% has to go into a fund to handle addiction. Yes. People that have a problem. People that lose it all. That need counseling, need help. Why would you legalize something that you know a percentage of your population it's going to destroy them? But, hey, now, what does this all have to do with anything? I'm going to show you here. Because I don't trust any of them down there. I know what they're doing, and I know why this is very quiet. All right? Now, number 8 here on my screen. As of 2026, several gambling bills are currently under consideration in Georgia General Assembly. While most gambling includes sports betting and casinos remaining illegal in the state, lawmakers have reintroduced several key proposals for 2025-2026 legislative session. All right, so you got House Bill 910, Senate Resolution 131 for a constitutional amendment, House Bill 686. Now, obviously, you'll hear your lawmakers say, well, shouldn't you be allowed to vote on it? And that's their out of taking a stand on it. So, just want to show you a couple things here. This is Gaming and Leisure Properties, Inc. Now, do a little research. You talk about data centers. I get it, right? Gaming and Leisure Properties, Inc. reached, not research. Gaming and Leisure Properties, Inc. reached an agreement with Macon-Bibb County to buy the former J.C. building at the Macon Mall for $20 million and completely revitalize the space. Company executives added, if and when casino gambling is legalized in Georgia. They're all over these gaming companies. The lobbyists are all over. They're preparing. Now, just want to put this in here. $409 million hospital plan aims to ease jail mental health backlog in Georgia. So here's where I just put all this out here. You have heard about mental health for a long time. I get it, all right? And I know personally a sheriff or two that I've talked to that their jails are revolving doors and they're packed with people that should be in a mental health facility. A sheriff will tell you that. They don't have room in their jails and they need help because many of their inmates are really a mental health issue, not a criminal issue. That's an issue in itself that we have to figure out. So what we're going to do is a $409 million hospital plan aims to ease jail mental health backlog in Georgia. Now, the way our lawmakers in Georgia work down at the Gold Dome is they absolutely they're very good at putting out something that says, man, we're helping, we're doing the right thing, we're meeting the needs. When the truth is, okay, that behind the scenes, we're going to have casinos if they can get it through, right? Going to have casinos, going to tax them. They don't want to talk about the film industry collapsing in Georgia. Nowhere near as strong as it once was, and you can only watch Medea Goes to Jail so many times with Tyler Perry in Georgia, right? So I sit here today, I don't trust anything. When I say anything, that's large. I don't trust anything about them when they tell me they're going to cut the state income tax. I don't trust anything about them when they tell me they're going to eliminate the property tax. They're not going to do away or eliminate counties and cities and municipalities, Board of Education from just collecting the money. They're going to bring that revenue in, and how else are they going to do it? And sadly, I'm very concerned they're going to try to bring in that revenue and collapse a percentage of the people in Georgia that just do not need to have access to a casino. That's BKP's opinion, all right? I mean, I just can't trust these people. Now, I want to go to something else. What was the deal? Now this one has me spinning. It really does. What was the deal in Valdosta? All right. Now, a lot of people, President Donald Trump will be giving his State of the Union address. We'll talk about that momentarily. But what was the deal? Because, before we go too far, Brian Kemp has endorsed Derek Dooley for Senate. Trump has endorsed no one. Donald Trump has endorsed Burt Jones for governor. Brian Kemp has endorsed no one. Now, you have to keep in mind when this handshake took place, I have been told, I can't confirm this, but multiple sources said that J.D. Vance brokered this deal. And what I mean by that is this handshake took place after Trump came to Atlanta, had a rally, and spent about 10 minutes beating the hell out of Brian Kemp. Because Brian and Marty, because we know Marty she doesn't like Donald Trump. I'm not telling you Brian Kemp likes Donald Trump. Marty does not. I do not think, if I could check, just speculating, I would bet Marty Kemp voted for Kamala Harris. It's just how I feel, okay? Now, moving right along. It's not who Brian Kemp likes and dislikes as the governor of Georgia. It's not. It's not who Brian Kemp likes and dislikes. It's who Marty Kemp likes and dislikes in Georgia. I'm just saying. Now, so that being said, remember in Valdosta at the hurricane relief, Trump comes in, Kemp, this is a very tense handshake. But at this time, President Donald Trump has not put his cabinet together. And at this time, when this picture on the screen is taken, Marco Rubio, now let's not go down the road. He's a globalist, he's establishment, Gang of Eight, asylum, wants to give illegal citizenship pathway, whatever, all that. But right now, for most Republicans polled, Marco Rubio is very high up the ranks. In fact, there's so much discussion, even the warmonger, Lindsey Graham, says a J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio ticket, right? So was Brian Kemp promised the J.D. Vance ticket? Don't know. Because I'm getting ready to say something that's, someone called and just put this out here. You have to keep your name moving and spinning in politics for the most part to stay in the game. So a lot of people thought Brian Kemp would run for the Senate. And then a lot of people said, no, he's going to hold out to run for president. Everything out there. What was the deal? Now, so Rick Jackson has made a statement that if he would, Rick Jackson made a statement, the billionaire running for governor, that if he could not complete everything he wants to do or something of that nature, don't want to quote him, he would not seek a second term, right? He didn't quote say, I'm only going to run for one term. I'm only going to serve one term. I've not heard that quote, hey, I'm Rick Jackson running for governor and I'm only going to serve one term. But Rick Jackson has said that if he could not complete and check off these boxes, he would only serve one term. So someone calls me up, and this is wild. This is wild. And I was like, wow, I can't believe you just said that to me. Because there's a lot of people wondering, where did Rick Jackson, not where did he come from? He's a billionaire over in Alpharetta. I went to his corporate office. It's amazing. He's a very nice man. He's worked hard. He's got a great story. Now, there's a couple very strong things that he says that I can support. I'm not supporting him for those people out there, but the cartel, right? He caused the political machine in Georgia a cartel. He's going to bring it down. I'm really on board with that. And I want someone that I really think has a heart and cares for our children. And if you hear Rick Jackson's story from the projects, you know, he grew up in the projects, but trust me, he lived next door to the right and to the left and front and back of kids in the projects also. And he grew up in foster homes where a daily beating was equal to a meal, as he said, something like that. No, I'm not quoting it. So I think Rick Jackson could truly have a heart for our children. That has me right there. I mean, I want somebody that really cares about our kids, because what they're going through and what they've been through and what they face. Now, those are two things. But there's people asking, like, I understand he's 71 years old. Nice guy. In fact, I'm going to tell you about his stop at Warner Robins, because I don't go to the spinners. You know, the spinners, the people that spin what really happened at these locations and these meetings. You know, they come out and write how, you know, we had a great day campaigning in North Georgia when Burt Jones had what I consider, to me, it was, I know Pickens County, I know Appalachian Gun and Pawn, I know, you know, Pools Barbecue, I know these campaign spots. And I consider it a wasted day in the Burt Jones campaign in North Georgia Saturday, but they will write the spin. So I'm going to give you the actual what took place at Steak and Shake last week, all right, And at that meet and greet for Rick Jackson there. Moving back, I understand he's 71 years old. I shook his hand. I like the guy. I like what he has to say. Why is he running for governor? All right. Why? I mean, he's a billionaire. Why spend all this money on these advertising? Why not get up? His son, I met his son, not personally shaking hands, but I was right there at the stage when his son gave the opening speech about his dad. He is actually the one, I forget his son's name. I think his last name's Jackson. But he is the one running the company. You're 71 years old. Get up, put the white socks on all the way up to your calves, get some shorts, go down to the beach with sandals, whatever. You're a billionaire. You want a full-time governor's job? Well, the President of the United States is 80 years old. I get that. So I'm not thinking it's the end, it's the worst thing, but that's one thing. Is him like, why do you want to be governor? Second, when you're governor, the team you hire, you start looking at the team. Now, Nick Ayers, nice guy, right? I don't have it in front of me, so if I'm not correct on something, let's not attack each other. All right, you can go look it up. It's very simple. But Nick Ayers is in the campaign. Nick Ayers was Mike Pence, right? Mike Pence, chief of staff. Mike Pence and Brian Kemp, very close friends. Easy, right? Chief of staff. And then Nick Ayers went on to the Republican Governors Association. Brian Kemp chaired. Was he the chairman of the Republican Governors Association? Just saying. But they're very close. Don't know. And the other thing, someone said, I had a call with someone that met Mr. Jackson, and I said, what do you think? What do you think? In fact, one person that met Mr. Jackson down at the Steak and Shake in Warner Robins, I said, I talked to this individual on the phone. What did you think? What do you think of this guy? And the person said, the only real concern I have is he said that Brian Kemp at the pandemic called him direct about staffing healthcare facilities in Georgia to get through the pandemic, which I'm okay with that. And this person said, how close are they that he called him direct to staff healthcare facilities during the pandemic? All right, I'm okay with all of that. So that being said, I get a phone call this morning. And this individual said, just put this in the possibilities. What if Rick Jackson is a 4-year placeholder for Brian Kemp? I said, ooh, tell me more. Tell me more. What is this you speak of, young man? I don't know. I just said that, okay? So I said, tell me more. Well, if Burt Jones, now this is where everybody's going to get all bent out of shape. And then again, if you don't know me, you don't know my care level. Because when it comes to politician, my care level, well, it's not like the meter goes up. So Marty Kemp, I told you earlier, it's not who Brian, the governor, likes. It may be Marty. Now, there's a lot of people say this. I don't say this. I don't know. But a lot of people say Marty's not real fond of old Burt. Just saying. I'm just saying. They say she's not real fond of old Burt. So what if Burt, now let's just run this scenario so we can get moving through here. But what if Burt was to win the nomination, become governor, and then won a second term as governor? So what if Jackson is a placeholder? What if, I'm just saying this, please, this is not what's happening, but we're thinking all the way around the box because we're not figuring, this is not playing all the way around. So I said, wait a minute. Brian Kemp has termed out. Nope. In Georgia, a governor is limited to 2 consecutive 4-year terms. Why, hell, you say? Now, we're going to get on to some serious stuff, but I just got to put all this out here. Well, however, there's a however. However, they are not barred for life. After those 2 terms, according to the Georgia Constitution, Article 5, Section 1, a governor can serve more than 2 terms total if they follow these rules. A wait period. After serving 2 consecutive terms, 8 years, that would be Brian Kemp, a person must wait at least 4 years before they are eligible to be elected governor again. So what if? We're just having a little fun. We're kicking the can around, right? Why not? Kick the tires on the thing. We don't know if we're buying into this. But what if Rick Jackson comes in and splits the rail here, blows up the Republicans? Just what if? Maybe a Democrat gets in. And 4 years later, because I'll tell you what got me, is Brian Kemp has released a going out of office / campaign video that I find interesting. Seriously. It's almost like, I'll be back. I'm not Arnold. I don't want to do an I'll be back, right? But keep this in mind. He could run again. 4 years. Well, I'll be daggone. You don't say. Now, before we move on to Rick Jackson and Burt Jones stressing out, yes, they are in full panic mode. We'll talk about that. We talked about it yesterday without audio. So, Brian Kemp, right? Let me get this out here. He releases a video. And I'm going to play the video for you because, as I said earlier, it's almost like a campaign video. So let's go there before we move on a little further into the governor's race. Let me get this here. Now stay with me. Takes me just a second to get set up. As you can see, I'm wearing a sling here. Can you see it? It comes across here. You can't see that, but I'm wearing a sling for my broken arm. And so listen to this video. Let's take some notes.
Our goal as elected leaders was to do the best we could for the people who sent us here to serve in this building. We worked together to make our communities safer, their dreams more achievable, their lives more prosperous, and their future a little brighter. My fellow Georgians, there is no question the state of our state is stronger, more prosperous, and safer today than it was in January of 2019. State taxes on hardworking Georgians are low and going lower. Our rainy day fund is at a record high. Our schools are fully funded. Our infrastructure is receiving historic investments, and our state law enforcement and educators are paid more today than they were 7 years ago. We keep your tax burden low. We budget conservatively and responsibly, and we ensure that state government is efficient with the dollars that you trust us with. Because as I've said before, that's your money, not the government's. Our communities are safer. Unemployment is low. More new private sector jobs are being created every day, and businesses around the country and the world know Georgia is the place to be. When I launched my campaign for governor, it was about promising those hardworking Georgians that I would fight for them every day, whether they voted for me or not. The Georgia of today stands on a firm foundation, a foundation built on the character of our people, the resolve of leaders both past and present, and by the grace of our Creator. Let's go finish the race. Like Nehemiah said, let's finish the great work we started. Thank you all. It has been an honor. May God bless you, and God continue to bless the great state of Georgia.
So no matter what happens, that's how I left it. I mean, that is one heck of a campaign ad. I mean, no matter what happens, who gets elected, Democrat, Rick Jackson, Brian kept saying, that's how I left it. Now, a little fact checking here, all right? Fully funded teachers. Fully funded teachers. Now, I will tell you this. I am not supporting Richard Woods or Wood. I'm not supporting him for state school superintendent. Not going to happen. All right. But I just want to show you a couple things. The fully funded teachers, reading proficiency. And I think you know that. And and how many illegals are in this country. Let me get this here. Literacy coaches. I'm not supporting Richard Wood. Literacy coaches. Those are reading teachers. Go look at how much money we have spent. English as second language. How much money we have spent to educate illegals. So when he says fully funded and teachers pay, now I'm going to show you something on teachers pay and the budget. Just a couple things here. Just because he said this, Common Core, cursive writing is going to go back in. And as I said, not. As governor of Georgia, before we move on, as governor of Georgia, and he said in 2019, so we'll go with 2019, he has the nerve to say budget, conservative, and efficient, and your money. Well, we know what the rainy day fund is and the billions of dollars in there. But if you look at 2020, the following are the enacted and proposed state fund spending totals. $37 billion from $27.5 billion to $37.7 billion. Now, there's nothing conservative about this bunch under the Gold Dome. Nothing. All right. $10 billion. While we're looking at, as they want to call it, conservative, the 2026 amended budget Governor Brian Kemp just signed, Georgia politicians just jammed through a 12% spending increase. The supplemental. So they always leave the legislative session with a budget, and then at the beginning of the next year's legislative session, you have to pass a supplemental to adjust things until you get to the spending of the new budget July 1st. I think July 1st is when we start the fiscal year in Georgia. $4.5 billion jump, while the state still carries, we still have approximately $10 billion in debt. All right. So I just wanted to say that concerning, and I want to show you something else when we talk about teachers, because as you well know, we love our teachers here, but I want to show you something when they start talking about cutting taxes. Let me wrap this up. We'll put both of them together. Then we'll get into our next subject today, because I'm tired of the political stunts. Yes, I don't want anything for Sharia law. I would like ivermectin to be sold over the counter. That's a simple one. I do think we should have a medical freedom bill. But trusting these people that are running for office out there every day with political stunts, and people keep sending me videos of one particular member of the state Senate running as lieutenant governor, of what this individual seems to be enlightened and has discovered. We'll get to that in just a minute. I mean, don't fall for these political stunts, people. Hold your ground. Now, this right here, remember, Georgia House Republicans announced plan to eliminate property tax. Well, let me just show you something. And there's only one reason I bring up the state of Illinois, because this is all over the country, fiscally all over the country. This is what's on the screen. You may not be able to read it. Illinois pension deficit is widely regarded as the most severe in the United States, with a total unfunded liability for state-run systems recently estimated at approximately $143 billion. All right? When including all 677 state local government pension funds, the total liability across Illinois reaches $493 billion. Now, the top is teacher retirement. Now, we love our teachers, got it, love our teachers, but all across this country, there is not a single state exempt from teacher retirement budget deficits. Not a state. They're all, well, I got to go through all of them. Got to be careful, someone will fact check me. Now, Georgia public pension systems, particularly the teachers' retirement system, faced a significant funding gap, with recent estimates placing the total unfunded liability at approximately $33 billion as of late 2024 and early 2025. Now, the reason I bring this up is they are scurrying down under the Gold Dome to find ways, casinos, gambling, anything. What can we do to try to fund these unfunded pension liabilities that we have and the deficits we will be running soon, no matter how much we brag? So I just thought I would bring that up. I don't trust anything happening under the Gold Dome at the current time. So let's go back to Rick Jackson. Now, I did not say any of that was happening. I said we were kicking the tires. I do not know if Brian Kemp plans to run for office again 4 years later. I do not. We're just putting some things together, asking questions. Now, for those of you that are wondering what really happened with the lawsuit to stop Burt Jones from using the leadership committee funds, I've talked to several people about this to make sure that the information I bring to you is correct. Here is the issue, and here is where Jackson won in court. What happened in court stay with me here. Got to get this pulled up before we get to the campaign stunts of the day. So he goes to court, and they actually make the argument that Burt Jones cannot use this money at this time. Wait a minute, what's that mean? So Jackson for governor, temporary restraining order granted against Burt Jones. The United States District Court, blah, blah, blah. Cancel reserve media buys. So what really happened here, and where this is a major blow to the Burt Jones campaign, is the leadership committee fund that Burt Jones is using is for lieutenant governor. So the court would allow him to keep using that money if he was running for re-election right now in the primary for lieutenant governor. But what they're saying is, and the argument is, no. You can't take the money out of this fund as lieutenant governor to run for governor. You can't put it for two different offices. Let me get that clear. I might mess it up a little bit. So he had to cancel all the media buys. And the media buys are at a much better, when they put the blocks in place, much better pricing than what's coming down the road. But if Burt Jones becomes the nominee, then he will be running for governor, and he will be the nominee. He can then, we understand, be able to use the fund. A little convoluted. We need to get rid of all of them, period. We need to look at campaign finance, because politics is $1 trillion, folks. $1 trillion industry, from mayor, dog catcher, commissioners, whatever, all across this country. And it produces, to me, absolutely nothing, but the majority is corrupt politicians. $1 trillion industry in this country, that the outcome on the other end is not a Ford, a Lincoln, a Chevy, a Denali, a Chrysler, Toyota, Capri. At the other end of the assembly line is a corrupt politician, is what we get. So Jackson wins big in court Friday. Now, Saturday, so Jackson wins big in court Friday. So obviously there's talk. We got to stop this guy in his tracks. We got to work this out. We got to stop it in the tracks. So I'm going to play a little bit of Burt Jones Saturday, and you're going to hear on Saturday where the plan was being put in place to stop Rick Jackson from going forward as a candidate for governor in the state of Georgia. Let me get the screen. We're going to play one at a time. See if we can make this happen.
Georgia is the firewall right now. Georgia is the firewall as far as the national politics is concerned, because the Democratic Party knows if they ever take Georgia, they will control the politics. I had the opportunity this past week. President Trump came into town, and I got the opportunity to ride around with him. Right? Yeah. I saw your picture. Yeah, and he's a great guy. We talked about everything from the the controversy going on out in Iran, to the economy, to even NIL. You know, and so and he said, what would you do about NIL, Bert? And I was like, well, I can write it down for you if you want me to, and we can fix it real quick right here, Mr. President. But he said this. He said, Bert, he said, they are after you. They're after you because they're afraid of you. And he says, you just tell me what you need from me, and we'll make it happen. Because he knows that the three guys I'm running against never trumped. They never have been there. They weren't around in 16. They weren't around in 20. They weren't around in 24. They didn't help. They ran and hid, and in some cases they donated a lot of money to the other candidates right there.
All right, so let's start there for just a minute. So Georgia is the firewall. We've talked about the firewall. Georgia is. Trump said they're after you because they're afraid of you. They're afraid of you. Burt Jones goes on to say, and let me remind you, in that room at Pools Barbecue, most of the room is with him. Not a lot of people walked in to say, hey, I'd like to meet this guy running for governor of Georgia at Pools Barbecue. That didn't happen. So, but anyhow, he said, these three guys are never Trumpers. Never Trumpers. And the one guy gave a lot of money to his opponents, all right? So he's laying the groundwork for Rick Jackson, running against Rick Jackson. Now, let's go back to the next video. I'm going to start breaking some things down for you.
All right, so I've got this new guy in. I'm calling him Slick Rick now because he wants to put himself out there as a business guy, but he got a lot of state and federal contracts that he's dependent on. So that means he's dependent on taxpayers' dime right there. So just be careful. We're gonna have a lot more information about old Slick Rick before it's over with here. But I will tell you this: I don't like to run those type campaigns, but I've been attacked so much that at some point in time you got a punchback, you know. And but I need your help. I need your support. I appreciate every one of y'all in here, and I appreciate all the encouragement and everything y'all give me, Joe. And I'm happy to take questions, but.
Now, as you can see there, hold on just 1 minute. Stay with me. Don't go anywhere. Hold on just a minute, folks. I want to look at something before All right. As you can see there, let me slide this over. Hold on. Let me play this video, see if I got them all in.
I'm calling him Slick Rick now because he wants to put himself out there as a business guy, but he got a lot of state and federal contracts that he's dependent on. So that means he's dependent on taxpayers' dime right there. So just be your help, and I'm calling him Slick Rick now because. I'm calling him.
Just wanted to make sure I had all the videos. I thought I had another one, but now Slick Rick, right? He depends on a lot of state contracts. Did you hear that? State and federal contracts. We're going to have a lot more info. So what I'm getting at is they were working out this plan over the weekend. How do we stop this guy, right? So let's get to back here. And this is, I showed you this yesterday. Well, we didn't have the video up yesterday because we had an audio problem, but this is Jason Ridley, a Republican lawmaker aligned with Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, is pushing legislation that aims to stop Slick Rick, as Burt calls him. House Bill 1362 would prohibit someone with state contracts from running for office. Pretty darn interesting. And the campaign, we are not surprised Rick Jackson has taken a page out of Stacey Abrams' playbook using lawfare to target President Trump's endorsed candidate. That is the Burt Jones campaign statement when the court said that Burt Jones could not use the committee, leadership committee, and there we have from the state GOP, the RNC is now allowed to come in and spend money for Burt Jones, no neutrality, and so let me go through a couple here. This is Appalachian Gun and Pawn Saturday. Now, this is Rick Jaspers, and this is the owner of Appalachian Gun and Pawn, and Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones is behind them. And this is where they were getting ready to take a picture. I was in the area. I moved back not to get in the picture. I don't do that. And when I moved back, I said, I can't be in the picture. Burt Jones said, with everybody able to hear it, he can't be in the picture. He's on Rick Jackson's payroll. And I will look you in the eye. I'm looking you right in the eye and telling you I'm on no one's payroll. Absolutely not. No one pays me to do the program. No one pays me to do what I do. I'm not one of the grifters. I'm not on there that is getting dark money. That's my opinion. In my opinion, there's a lot of dark money that floats around, and people are on podcasts or on social media, grifters that are carrying water for politicians. I do not carry water for politicians. I put pressure on him. I looked him right in the eye and I said, I don't appreciate that because I am not on anyone's payroll. And he said, oh, I'm just joking. So, yeah, he said, I'm just joking. And let me get to the campaign stunt here. This is Sally Grubbs right there in the white with Burt Jones that he put on the state election board for a campaign stunt. And going right through here, just quickly as we move along, Brad Raffensperger is going to cut taxes. Here is Burt Jones with his BFF, Josh McCoon, the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. And I find it quite interesting. There's a lot of heat right now on the Georgia Republican Party because Josh McCoon stepped out and Amy Kramer signed it, and Jason Thompson, National Committee woman, National Committee man for Georgia to the RNC, also signed the waiving the Rule 11 to give the RNC the green light to come in and support Burt Jones over other primary candidates for the governor of Georgia. And here is Burt Jones with Josh McCoon. There has been, to my recollection, the 12th District of Georgia, the 8th District of Georgia, the 10th District of Georgia, and the 9th District of Georgia have all passed resolutions condemning the state party for waiving Rule 11 to bring in the RNC in the primary. But here is Burt. He set it all up. Now, just a little interesting while we're at it, this is Chairman Josh McCoon. In the background up there is his wife, Jacqueline McCoon, who happens to be the president of the Butts County Chamber of Commerce. That's where Jackson, Georgia, where Burt Jones lives. Can't make any of this up. But Josh has closed off his X account. These posts are protected. He's gone underground. Josh McCoon has gone underground with his post. Now, let's go to some campaign stunts. So I said this, nowhere will you find that they actually have said they're running mates. But this is Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. And as you can see here, that's Greg Dolezal. Hey guys, Greg Dolezal here with my good friend Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, right? So he's running for Lieutenant Governor. Greg Dolezal, Burt Jones running for governor. My opinion, they're running mates. And they have a problem. Now, Burt has a serious problem. So here's what I say. They say, to the Bat Cave, right? To the Bat Cave. And here they are, right there. To the Bat Cave. And there is Robin, the sidekick, dynamic duo with Batman, protector of Gotham. Just saying. All right. Now, moving right along, let's look at the Boy Wonder. All right. Now, here is the Boy Wonder. And I refer to Greg the Weasel Dolezal as the Boy Wonder. Because, holy cow, Batman, he has discovered everything. I mean, he has. Let's see what the Boy Wonder is up to. And how many political stunts he is attempting as running for lieutenant governor. If you can't trust him now, and I don't trust him, that's up to you. If you can't trust him now, how can you trust this guy if he gets the office? Like, when will he consider something to be a crisis? On election eve? So let's see what the Boy Wonder is up to. Now, as we go through, let's remember the Boy Wonder, Greg the Weasel Dolezal, is friends with Rob Pitts, Fulton County chairman. They're friends, period. I don't care. Oh, that's just a photo. No, they're friends. Now, so every time I turn around, somebody's sending me a video. People are getting worked up across the state. So let's go with this. Georgia law allows state election board, this is Greg Dolezal, to step in if a county election board repeatedly violates state election rules. Here's how it works. So he tells you how it works. So he gets everybody in a frenzy, right? Let's go over one more. And here is WSB TV. It's pastime lawmaker. This is the Boy Wonder. Lawmaker pushes for state to take over Fulton elections. He just found this out. Maybe he just got the authority to do it. Maybe he's not had the authority to do it. And he just found out. So now we have, here's another one of the, thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to stand with you in this fight to secure Georgia elections. So, key political voice in Georgia urges state to take over Fulton County elections. All right. That would be none other than the Boy Wonder. I mean, now we have this one, right? While families get crushed by rising energy costs, data centers get sweetheart tax deals, not anymore. Not anymore. How dare you? Stop right there. Not anymore. Why, holy cow, Batman. Not anymore. Stop in your tracks. I'm filing an amendment so counties and cities can raise millage rates on data centers and cut them for everyone else. Well, there's a novel thought. And when did that come to you, Gregory? I mean, when? I mean, did you get up one morning and say, holy smokes, Batman? Do you realize what's going on? How did the data centers get these deals? Who put the laws in place that opened these doors? He just learned this, and now he's going to allow, here's the thing that just scares the crap out of me, is he wants to give counties and cities the authorities to up millage rates on just data centers? Can you do that? Can you pick areas just to raise millage rates? Can you legally? And cut them for everyone else? I can't believe this guy. But what's interesting is the people are like, oh my God. He wants to claw back what he was very much a part of. You can't make this stuff up. Then, why, what else for this Cape Crusader, the boy wonder? You can't count on, you can count an illegal ballot 10 times or 10,000 times. It's still illegal. Why, I am just amazed at what you have found here. Fulton County elections are a disgrace. Glad the FBI is here to uncover the truth. Why, thank you, boy wonder. Once again, you're amazing. Why, you're amazing. You're just amazing. I'm stunned. Why, I'm just sitting here in silence. I mean, what is really, I have to say, maybe upsetting here is some of the people that are sharing these videos and everything, and he keeps going on the floor of the Senate and using our tax money to do campaign stunts on the floor of the Senate and puts them out in what I call social media. Oh, here we go. Breaking: Fulton County, Georgia Chair Rob Pitts got a call tipping him off 3 days before the raid there would be arrest over election crimes. So he got tipped off. Don't forget, now this is Greg's friend. Yes, this is Greg Dolezal's friend. Now, so illegals and counting the votes. Let's go over just a handful of things, all right, that the boy wonder, Greg the Weasel, may want to become aware of. Many of you out there know he died of cancer a couple years ago. My good friend D.A. King, the force behind Georgia's immigration law. Now, D.A. fought the battle down in Atlanta year after year after year, okay? Conservative activist D.A. King, founder of the Dustin Inman Society, has long advocated for legislation that clearly distinguishes driver's license held by non-citizens from those used for voter identification. Now, let's use the boy wonder Greg for just an example, because he is the one that seems to be just amazed by what he's finding out all of a sudden in so many different areas. Voter fraud, illegals voting, the voter rolls, what's happening in Fulton County, the ability to remove the election board. So I'm going to show you some things here, okay? This is where keeping it real takes place. Little nugget of truth. So while he has historically pushed for various measures to restrict illegal immigration, all right, distinctive labeling, we have pushed this. I helped support him with this. Now, D.A. King, he made the lead. He took it to the Capitol. He walked the floor. But distinctive labeling, King supports requiring that driver's license issued to non-citizens be clearly marked. A recent Georgian bill, HB 1109, proposes that such license must include the text, bearer not a U.S. citizen, not voter ID. Unique identification numbers. I mean, this guy, non-citizen, he wanted a prefix in front of the driver's license number with an NC. So, Greg, I just want you to know, considering you have come into this information, that you're amazed by. All right? There's been people working on this for years, Greg, and we would have welcomed you years ago to help us take this stand that you're taking now. I mean, I know you're mad and you're not going to take it anymore, but look here. Holy cow, Batman. So now let's talk about Fulton County Board of Elections. Right now, I'm not an attorney. I don't even play an attorney on TV. So I'm not an attorney. Let's be clear, right? I'm going to tell you what I think here. But the removing the state board of election and him going out and acting as though and going on all these grifter TV shows, and I mean grifter TV shows, as though he has found something that needs to be done. This is how it works. Now, first of all, to take over the Board of Election or put the steps in place to take over the Board of Election in Fulton County has been there since SB 202. Yes. Under Georgia Election Integrity Act of 2021, SB 202, the state can temporarily remove and replace a county election board through a process by the state election board. So, Greg, I don't know what you're hopping mad about right now there, boy wonder. I don't know. But you could have got some people together and you could have made this happen. But you didn't. The following steps are required to facilitate a state takeover. Initiation of performance review. Now, we're going to get into that in a minute because you're going to find all these things and you're going to hear about all these things that Fulton County are doing wrong. And by no means am I defending Fulton County and what I consider a very corrupt election system. But the errors and the laws that they break, there's multiple counties that maybe we should move forward on that parallel with what's going on in Fulton County. Initiate a performance review. A formal review of the local election board must be triggered by one of the following. Local request. A request from the county's governing authority. So the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County, they're not going to do it. Legislative request. A request from at least 2 state legislators representing any portion of the county. So the state legislators that cover Fulton County could do this. Independent state election board action. The state election board can initiate a review on its own based on its own findings. So they could do it, the state election board. Now, the Performance Review Board investigation, an independent performance review board consisting of the Secretary of State's appointees and 2 local election officials from other counties conduct a thorough and complete investigation of the local board's performance over at least 2 elections and 2-year period. Now, they leave this out. They leave this out. The performance review has to be done, and it has to be presented. Now, the state election board can put it in process. It can be put into play, all right? But the board, a local board performance over the last 2 elections in a 2-year period. Now, keep in mind, President Trump won 2024. So, next, Performance Review Board investigation. An independent performance review board consisting of the Secretary of State, I just showed you that, and 2 local officials conduct thorough and complete investigation. Finding of grounds for removal. For the state election board to proceed with removal, this is after the investigation. With removal, the review board must find evidence of persistent violations, gross mismanagement, list goes on. Could they do that? Possibly. But they have to have that investigation first. Preliminary and full hearings. Preliminary hearings after receiving the review report, the state election board must hold a preliminary hearing within 30 to 90 days to determine if probable cause for removal exists. Then they have to have a full hearing. They have to have a preliminary hearing, right? Yes, they do. To see if a trial's worthy, just like a court, right? They have to have a hearing to see if it's even worthy to go to court for this. A full hearing. If probable cause is found, a full hearing is conducted where the local board could present a defense. Now, I want to go through this thoroughly, and I don't want anything left out because you keep hearing it because the boy wonder. And why don't they do this? And then you have people on there, well, President Trump should take over the elections there. And President Trump should do this. And my God, thank you, Greg, the boy wonder, the weasel. He has had the ability to kick this off, right? They've had the ability, the state election board, to do this last year to get it started. When Fulton County, when the Joe Rossi case, they could have started the investigation. But I'm going to tell you why I think it has been put on hold and it's only been sensationalized to make it look like it when you go on the piece of garbage show Steve Bannon, and you go on all these other shows across the country, and you go on these networks, and you go on the Lawnmower Boys show, whatever that is, and you go to these grifter networks, and you get everybody whooped into a frenzy. So, suspension and replacement. Suspension vote, a majority vote of the SEB, at least 3 members can suspend. Boom. The local board for 9 months. Appointment of a temporary superintendent, reinstatement of permanent removal. So, as it goes on, there's a process they have to put in place. Now, there's a little problem they have. And I know what you're going to say. Well, I've been to every election board meeting, and I've seen the violations, and I've seen the violations here, and they continue to violate. And the election rolls and the registered voters, and there's violation after violation. I don't disagree, but Fulton County is the largest county in the state, the largest election board in the state. So in comparison to Fulton County, how many other counties do we have in similar, equal, if not more violation? There's something you got to remember, because what did I tell you? You have to have, they review the last 2 election cycles, right? Now, in 2024, this is very important. In 2024, remember the major argument. The argument was that the State Board of Election, they were going to get bids. Remember, they were going to get presentations and bids and to pick a monitor for Fulton County. So the commission, Fulton County Commissioners, State Election Board, and the SEB, or the Secretary of State's office, were going to come together and pick a monitor they could agree on. Well, it was done behind closed doors. There needs to be a full investigation of the corruption, right? That could go all the way to the governor's office. I don't see the weasel out. I don't see the boy wonder out asking for that kind of investigation. No. No, I don't see him doing that. But if he could sensationalize something, he's out there doing it. Now, in 2024, Ryan Germany, I know what you're saying. Let me stop you before you go. Well, this was wrong and that was wrong and this. I got it. Do the investigation. Find all the criminals. Put them in jail with you. In 2024, Ryan Germany, the former general counsel for the Secretary of State, led an independent monitoring team for Fulton County general election. The role of the team was hired by Fulton County Board of Registration and Elections to oversee the process, such as training, ballot presentation, voting machine programming. Ryan Germany led the team. Former general counsel, the Carter Center, right, was involved. The Carter Center was involved. Matt Mashburn, a former Republican member of the state election board. Lynn Bailey, former executive director of Richmond County elections. Carter Jones, the independent monitor who oversaw Fulton's 2020 election. I know. Stop right there, right? Put them back in. But that was the team. Now, what did they find out in 2024? In 2024, according to a final report released in March of 2025, Germany and his team concluded that the 2024 election in Fulton County was organized and orderly. The monitors praised the county staff and administration, smooth, secure, accurate election, while making several recommendations for further improvements, such as enhancing voter privacy at touchscreens. So they made recommendation for further improvements. So they reviewed it. All right. Yes, the AP, it's a full article out there of how great Fulton County did. Now, number 43 here, after the 2020 election, Richard Barron, the Fulton County Registration and Election Director, faced a series of attempts to remove him. All right. The Board of Election fired him. They fired him February 2021. The Board of Commissioners overrode the firing, did not take effect immediately. He resigned November 2021 after nearly a year of intense public scrutiny. So Fulton County got rid of and pushed the guy out. Well, what did they do? And the reason I'm telling you this is you need to know all of it. In September 2021, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners appointed former City Council President Kathy Woolard as chair of the Fulton County Board of Registrations. She was brought in to lead the election board amid scrutiny, serving from September. Key details regarding Kathy Woolard's time, appointment, context, experience. She, according to them, she turned the entire place around. So what I'm getting at here, so I could show you this, is for everything they're out there talking about, and I'm on your side. Because the cover-up, the corruption that goes all the way to the top, I get it. I'm not giving Fulton County a pass. I just know what they're going to do. And for Greg Dolezal, and Republicans, no matter where the control came from, Republicans have had control of the state election board since the 2020 election. And since SB 202, Republicans have had enough control of the state election board. Republicans have had enough control of all the legislative bodies that they could have made this move. And Greg knows that. So one more thing I want to put out here. I'm tired of these people. Here is number 45. Yes, Georgia SB 189 signed into law May 2024 mandated the removal of QR codes on printed ballots. This is May of 2024. I fought really hard to get rid of the QR codes because when SB 189, I was on the Georgia Election Integrity Task Force for the GOP, and I fought really hard to get rid of these QR codes. But since May, it's 2026, since May of 2024, all right? The deadline, the law set a deadline for July 1st, 2026. Greg Dolezal, every Republican, the governor's office, Secretary of State, everyone knew May 2024 that July 1st QR codes are not supposed to be on there. The current status as of early 2026, the transition in the state is in limbo. The Georgia Secretary of State's office has estimated that fully complying with the law by replacing and upgrading equipment would cost $66 million. No one has done it. Everybody's come out, and they're all Republicans, every one of them, and said, hey, no QR code. Well, Brad Raffensperger didn't ask for the money. Well, we didn't bring up we have to have the money. You have the power to bring the Secretary of State's office in and get the laws that are out there put together. So, I just want to tell you, as you're looking at the dynamic duo, the boy wonder there, yes, Greg the Weasel Dolezal, that's out there with all of his stunts that he's trying to pull off as though he just got here and he just realized, holy cow, Batman, I plan to save the entire world. I will tell you what is so dangerous here is if this guy's campaigning like this, remember, there's a difference in the way he governs and a difference in the way he campaigns. And I don't trust him to govern in the lieutenant governor's office when he just became aware of all these things. I hate to think what they may hide from him that he may not see. Right, Greg? I mean, look, obviously you weren't aware of all this. So that's the boy wonder. Let me get out for the day. So what do I have? What do you have? Before I go, let's go to here. I showed you this yesterday. This happens to be, I'm not going to give any names or whatever. This happens to be the owner of the Steak and Shake in Warner Robins with Rick Jackson, the candidate for governor. I was told approximately 150 people were in the restaurant. There were pro-Jackson, and I understand there were definitely people set up to be there that were anti-Jackson. I've talked to about 4 people that were in the crowd and got a lot of details on this meet and greet. We'll discuss it at a later time. This is Christopher Moore. He is running for the 11th District, Congress 11th District. All right. Christopher Moore right there. And Barry Loudermilk's retiring. Now, I'm not going to go today. This is an outstanding guy. The AJC, no one will recognize he's running for Congress because they're afraid of him, and I'm serious. But here's Barry Loudermilk. This is Patricia Murphy Representative Barry Loudermilk's endorsing his chief of staff to replace him in what is expected to be a crowded GOP primary for the Georgia seat. Rob Atkinson, his chief of staff, is running. Now, the latest polling here that we see, Mike Collins is up over Buddy Carter. And I want to bring up Buddy Carter for a minute. He's at 19% and holding. He is currently the congressman from the 1st District. There is a race to replace him. And no, I did not bump my head. I'm getting ready to tell you something. But Mike Collins looks like the runaway as Derek Dooley is struggling to break double digits there. Also, Brian Kemp has endorsed Derek Dooley, brought him into the race. President Trump has not endorsed in this race at this time. So this one's going to get interesting. Over in the Marjorie Taylor Greene used to be, the former, here is Sean Harris, the Democrat, and there's a fear right now that this Democrat could slip in as we're talking endorsements over there. You know, Colton Moore, with the backing here of General Flynn and others, he has a chance. Clay Fuller, Donald Trump's endorsed candidate, he's not a lock over there in the 14th District. There's about 15, is it 18 candidates? So let me say this before we close. Tonight is the State of the Union address for President Trump. Is this Mike Johnson? This is the swamp. I'm just showing you the swamp Mike Johnson wants Clay Fuller. Is this Mike Johnson's last State of the Union address? Sitting behind the President of the United States? I mean, is this the last time? Because the State of the Union address is actually a legal meeting of Congress. It's a combined. The House of Representatives and the Senate come together. That creates Congress. And actually, he has to gavel the meeting in. And when he's done, he gavels it closed. It's an official government meeting, the State of the Union address. I wish, like anything, the State of the Union address was still something where our lawmakers, it was somewhat of a report on the union and where we stand, instead of just, an entertainment and who's going to boo-hoo or say boo-hoo, boo-hoo, or say something ugly, right? I wish it was different. But is this Mike Johnson's last? And will this be the last one President Trump gives? The next one will have Hakeem Jeffries. Will it? Will it? Just saying. A lot going on here, State of the Union tonight. Now, this is upsetting because we are no longer a nation of do the right thing over and above protect the political establishment. Now, this guy right here, remember the lady that worked for him set herself on fire. He was having an affair with her. This is Thomas Massey. For those that dislike Thomas Massey, I'm joining Nancy Mace, Laura Boebert, and Anna Paluna Luna in calling for Representative Tony Gonzalez to resign immediately. Where are all the other men in the GOP? Trump is infamous for making terrible endorsements. This is one that should be revoked. Trump has endorsed him. It's very clear he had an affair with with one of his staff. She went on to commit suicide. Now, this is where I don't want you to think I fell and bumped my head. I don't want you to think that. I'm just going to say this, okay? I'm going to say this easy. So I go through all social media. I keep up with everything moving. Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. I peruse it all. All right. And there's one candidate. Now, remember, Buddy Carter in the 1st District is a very nice guy. And they had Jack Kingston for years. Just the swampiest swamp creature you could get. Jack Kingston for 17 years in the 1st District. 1st District's very Republican. And then Buddy Carter takes the district. Nice guy. Now, a moderate. We'll leave it at that. We'll just call him a moderate, but Buddy Carter is a nice guy. Now, we have several people wanting to take his place. All right? And when I go on TikTok, who do I see? When I go on Facebook, who do I see? When I go on X, who do I see? I mean, it looks like everywhere I go, TikTok, scrolling through, I'm like, stop already, okay? But the reason I'm going to bring this up is the other day, this candidate actually put out a really good commercial. I'll play it tomorrow. It's a really good commercial. I actually love the commercial. It's guts, courage, and takes the front runner right between the eyes. Now, the front runner right now, and let me get to this, okay? The front runner right now is Jim Kingston, Jack's son. And Jim acts as though he's heir apparent. Jack acts as though he's the heir apparent. It belongs to them. The Kingstons have had it 17 years. Jim is not even a moderate at best, this young man. He's not even a moderate at best. The worst. There's bad. Go from bad to worst to worst. The worst. Boom. That could happen in the 1st District of Georgia is not to have any representation at all because Jim Kingston gets elected. He's not going to represent that district. He's going to represent big business, the lobbyists, and so forth. He is the swamp, right? In fact, he learned to swim in this swamp when he was little. Jack has taken him to D.C. I'm just telling you, the worst thing that can happen to the 1st District is this guy becomes their congressman. Now, that being said, there's a lot of candidates. But the other day, I see a commercial, and I say, oh my God, do I have to? Because I believe hard work should be recognized. Now, wait a minute before people lose their mind on me. Because I had somebody say, did you bump your head? And if something is good, you say that. And that's Candace Taylor. Candace is doing the work. And her commercial, go see her commercial. She did a very good job. And every time I go through TikTok, I can't get, boom, boom, boom. And every time I go to Facebook, she's at 5 more meet and greets. And, she's shaking the hoof of a goat 1 minute. And, over there at the animal fair over here and over here at the, bee pollen festival or wherever. She's doing the work. I am not advocating, endorsing, or asking anyone to vote for a candidate. I'm just saying she's putting in the work. The commercial is very good. I think you ought to go look at it. But this guy right here, the reason I bring it up is this guy right here should not be the congressman. People have Gavin Newsom. They talk about, why don't you like this guy? Right there, very simple. That's Shelley Winter. And we'll leave it at that with Gavin Newsom. No way I would take that picture. And let's see what else I have here. There is Lindsey Graham, the warmonger that wants us to go and take on Iran, who is trying to set up the deep state with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. This is the albino rhino, as we call him. This is Brant Frost V. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger referred him for criminal investigation, and Brad Raffensperger said this is just one of many we expect to file. So this thing's coming apart at the seams, and here he is, the albino rhino, Brant Frost V, right there. Seek a criminal probe. He was also a civil fine of $500,000 had to be paid in 30 days. We always like to remind everybody before we leave that since 2005, look at that, since 2005, Georgia Republicans have held the governor, Senate, and the state house. And, are you aware? Did you know that Georgia we have 159 counties? Do you realize there used to be 161? Yes. And there's a reason why I bring this up, because we'll explore it later, but there used to be 161. Yes, this event occurred in January 1st, 1932, when Georgia counties of Milton, did you realize there was the county of Milton and Campbell were merged into Fulton County? We've talked about Fulton County this morning. Bankruptcy. So, on January 1st, 1932, Milton and Campbell County, where Georgia used to have 161 counties, went bankrupt, were merged by the state legislature, voted, and were merged into what you see today as Fulton County. Don't forget Vora, right? Don't forget Vora on, let's see, how do I do this? Vora, Substack. I'll get it here. I'll get it in just a minute. Substack, Vora at BKP Politics. And then you have X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, wherever, at voiceofruralamerica.com. Folks, I hope we have audio today. I appreciate you very much. Tell a friend to tune in. Let's see. I'll see you tomorrow.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.